Chosen one, stop right here. This moment isn't random, and you didn't land here by accident. Something in you was meant to see this. That tug you feel in your chest, that stirring in your spirit, that's confirmation. You're not just anyone scrolling through, you are marked, chosen, and on the edge of something massive. This isn't just another night. This is a divine setup, a turning point, a spiritual spark lighting up your timeline and calling your soul to attention. There's something in this message meant just for you, and it's time to stop doubting that you're ready for more, because you are. Get ready to feel it. Get ready to own it, because by the time this is done, you're not walking the same. You're walking in alignment, in purpose, in fire. Let's go. This is your moment. The atmosphere shifts with a velocity that bypasses logic. This is not a gentle transition, but a seismic inner revolution encoded in your very being. What has bruised you, what has delayed or unsettled you, was never punishment. It was precision training. Every heartbreak was an initiation. Every detour, a recalibration. The struggle didn't shrink you. It sculpted you. Tonight marks the convergence of all that groundwork into a silent ignition beneath the surface, a signal awakening dimensions of strength buried beneath years of noise. This is not poetic flair. It is alignment at the threshold of the unseen. Looking for purpose and peace? Hit subscribe and start the journey. Silence becomes sacred now. What crackles in the atmosphere is not tension, but internal reconstruction. What feels like pressure is not anxiety, but rewiring. Not metaphor, movement. A flow begins that untangles inherited weight, the frictions, the imprints, the unspoken scars passed down. No fragment of you is lost, only restored. What held you back dissolves as internal pathways get cleared, not altered, but returned to their original rhythm. Beneath your layers, an architecture of brilliance has waited. Tonight, it lights up. There is no metric capable of reading this shift, no chart to map it. But it is happening. Let go of logic, surrender to this coded elevation. It is not a cure. It is a redesign. You rise from scattered thoughts to sharpened vision, from echoing wounds to steady resolve. The coming nights are not rest. They are metamorphosis. You may feel a wave of unfamiliar sensations, heaviness, restlessness, rawness. Do not resist. That is your inner world, making space for what your soul has always known. What begins now is irreversible. Feel God's love stirring within you. Don't let it stop there. Hit the super thank you button and sow a seed of $20 or more. That simple act can ignite hope, heal hearts, and carry His love further than you imagine. You are made to shine His light. This is your moment. Be the miracle someone's been praying for. Let heaven move through you. A passageway has opened, one that doesn't announce itself with noise, but instead moves like a silent shift beneath your awareness. The first moment arrives almost imperceptibly. Restless sleep, scattered fragments of emotion surfacing without warning, the body signaling something it doesn't yet understand. By the second phase, intensity builds within, not as chaos, but as internal rearrangement. Pressure doesn't come to break, it comes to realign. And on the third, the current within you strengthens, not as force, but as truth rising. What moves through you now is not temporary inspiration, but the blueprint of a new internal order forming. Let go of resistance. There is a sequence unfolding far beyond logic. The atmosphere carries more than silence. It holds encoded transition. What flickers through your mind, what stirs in your body, what tugs at your senses, isn't imagined. It is a signal. The layers you've carried begin to peel away. These hours are not meant to be ordinary. They exist outside the boundaries of routine, functioning as a private threshold of inner reformation. Each moment within them whispers an invitation to guard your focus, shield your energy, and refrain from returning to familiar noise. The outdated reflection of yourself begins to dissolve, not out of loss, but because something more aligned is finally surfacing. Step beyond the screen. Join and help light the way for others. Every internal flutter, every flicker of hyper-awareness, every unfamiliar emotional response. This is not randomness. These are not symptoms. They are signals. Systems within you long suppressed are activating, stepping out of the backdrop. You weren't meant to linger in smallness, to exist in shadows. The former patterns of holding back no longer serve where you're headed. This process isn't self-improvement. It's the collapse of illusions. Your essence isn't becoming. It's emerging. No more clinging to half-formed beliefs or seeking approval in places never meant to hold your truth. The idea of purpose is no longer a distant goal. It is your natural state, revealing itself in full clarity. Environments may push against this unfolding, not because you're wrong, but because your light speaks too loudly for the spaces built on silence. The emergence has already begun. The internal tempo quickens. Perceptions sharpen. Fear loses its grip. You begin to outgrow limitation without even trying. Familiar triggers lose their weight, not because they disappear, but because your perspective transcends them. Where tension once ruled, calm assertion now settles. Where fear whispered, clarity now anchors. Alignment reprograms how you receive the world, and your internal structure no longer interprets reality through old wounds. This rising is not decoration. It is the core mechanism of sacred transformation. And the further you step into it, the more magnetic your energy becomes, not by force, but by coherence. Even your interactions begin to change. Intuition strengthens, not with effort, but with remembrance. You'll walk into spaces and feel more than you see. You'll speak less, but shift more. The time for dilution is over. Nothing about this process is cosmetic. It's structural. What no longer fits cannot be dragged forward. The old design, stitched together by survival, cannot follow the frequency of your new reality. Let it shed. Let the weight drop. What emerges now is not a version. It's the origin. This isn't chance. This is encoded timing, etched into the design of your becoming. There's a reason things had to unravel before they could align. The delays, the losses, the collapses, they weren't punishments, but prerequisites. Growth needed the soil of your surrender. Before anything could rise within you, the noise had to thin, the background had to quiet, and your spirit had to reach a level of raw openness that cannot be faked. Stillness became the signal, not weakness. What once felt like abandonment was preparation under disguise. And now, everything is attuned. The environment, your inner frequency, the unseen current around you, primed for a flow that could never have landed in your previous state. This isn't random, it's rhythm, timed not by clocks, but by consciousness. If a strange heaviness arrives, if emotions surface without story, if you feel like you're unraveling, don't fear it. It's not chaos, it's clearing. Invisible restrictions wrapped around your energy field are dissolving. Ancient burdens passed through habits, memory, and bloodlines begin to unhook. Their departure may register as restlessness or disorientation. But make no mistake, this is a release, not a breakdown. Subtle frequencies are shifting, creating space for what's next. As inner blocks break apart, your perception changes. What once felt familiar now feels foreign. Old relationships dissolve. Tastes shift. Boundaries sharpen. These are not side effects, they're evidence. The unease is the price of purification. That pulse of discomfort, that deep fatigue, that mental spinning. It's not malfunction, it's reset. Your system is ejecting what it no longer identifies with. A kind of spiritual exhale is underway, much like nature shedding its old skin to make room for new. Transformation requires tension. And yes, it will ache. It will confuse. It will demand that you sit with parts of yourself that were long buried. But don't misread the symptoms. They are signs that your foundation is restructuring. Stay in it. Don't escape. Don't dilute. Let the friction shape you. The path to expansion moves through contraction. On the other side of this recalibration, perception changes, your thoughts sharpen, and your tolerance for energy misaligned with your truth fades fast. You begin to protect your presence, not out of pride, but precision. Who you once were, the diluted, edited, hesitant version, is no longer available. That version can't operate at this altitude. You've become too resonant, too clear. What once drained you now repels you. There's nothing left to explain or justify. Some connections naturally fade because they were rooted in your older vibration. Let it. This stage isn't about keeping the peace. It's about maintaining the purity of your frequency. Step beyond the screen, join, and help light the way for others. Energy becomes sacred currency. Where you go, what you consume, who you allow near, it all matters more now. Your vessel is hosting more than breath. It is carrying an imprint of the divine intention. Treat it accordingly. What you eat no longer fuels only the body, but supports the broadcast of your spiritual system. Clean inputs lead to clearer downloads. The more aligned your intake, the more precise your inner vision becomes. Processed distractions blur the signal. Pure nourishment sharpens it. This is not about restriction. It's about reverence. Ask your spirit what it needs and honor that wisdom. When the body is respected, the soul speaks louder. And what flows from you in this state is no longer effort. It is embodiment. You don't return to normal. You rise into design. What stirs within you now is not fantasy. It is a system waking up that's always lived beneath your surface. The vivid dreams, the sudden insights, the way your skin responds to unspoken tension around others. None of it is accidental. These are echoes of a deeper knowing reactivating itself. Your inner compass sharpens. You feel things before they happen. You decode energies without being told a word. These are not tricks of the mind. They're precision tools, long dormant, now coming online. They're entrusted to you for a reason, not just to sense, but to serve. You are being initiated into deeper awareness. And with that awareness comes the responsibility to listen, record, observe, and respond, not from ego, but from alignment. When your heart is full of God's love, it's a sign to give. By tapping the super thank you button and offering $100 or more, you become a vessel of His grace. Your generosity can change lives, reaching hearts you may never meet. You have a divine purpose, and this act of faith carries His light forward. Give now, and may His blessings surround you always. What you carry becomes impossible to hide. Some will be drawn toward it with awe. Others will retreat from it with unease and not even know why. That is because your internal signal no longer mirrors the same static as before. It vibrates with higher order. You now emit clarity, and that disrupts what is used to confusion. The field around you shifts before you speak. You radiate not by intention, but by essence. Certain connections dissolve without conflict. Others arise with eerie synchronicity. Let it all sort itself. That's not rejection. It's refinement. You don't attract what you want anymore. You attract what matches who you've become. When thought, emotion, and spirit synchronize, reality begins to bend in your favor. Manifestation is no longer a practice. It becomes the result of coherence. Requests turn into arrivals. Desires turn into recognitions. You no longer plead for the door to open because the room has already rearranged to let you in. This is more than mindset. It's energetic congruence. The distortions in your field have been dissolving. Resistance has been melting. Where you once blocked your own expansion, you now stand open and ready. Your desires orbit closer, not because you chase, but because your signal now mirrors their frequency. That shift you sense, it's not subtle, it's seismic. Your reflection carries a new signature. The version of you that doubted, that feared their own brilliance, that sought permission. That version has no place in this present timeline. What emerges is quiet strength and fierce gentleness combined. You say less, but move more. Your presence begins to speak its own language. You spent lifetimes trying to get here, breaking cycles, grieving false identities, releasing outdated definitions of yourself. You didn't just evolve, you returned. The real you, the anchored one, the awakened one. From now on, you walk not in potential, but in power. There's nothing to prove, just be. That's the revolution. The turning point doesn't wait for conditions. It arrives when divine sequence aligns. And that alignment is now. What you thought was stagnation was calibration. What looked like denial was precision in disguise. The forward surge begins, not because circumstances improved, but because heaven declared readiness. Structures around you now pivot in response. Unexpected pathways open. Connections arrive unannounced. Former obstacles fall silent. This isn't luck, it's law, energetic truth catching up with divine design. You are not entering a repeat loop. You are not trapped in history. The patterns you broke timelines. That version of you who settled, who hesitated, who internalized limitation, no longer holds authority. They are a memory. What now stands in their place is someone built from process and tested by silence. Not fragile, but fortified. And that strength doesn't roar, it pulses. No need to map the how. That's not your lane. The orchestration unfolding now does not require your logic. It requires your trust. The landscape shifts, whether or not you understand it. Let what unravels go quietly. Let what surprises you enter without resistance. It's all choreographed, not by your plans, but by the deeper blueprint your soul whispered before you arrived. The disarray you feared was not collapse, it was reformation. The ache was not punishment, it was labor. Let this moment be what it is, an echo of transformation, not a mistake. The confusion is sacred, the pressure is a signal, and when the mist clears, you'll recognize what was actually happening. Every release, every goodbye, every internal quake. They were carving the container for a future so authentic, it had to wait until your spirit could carry it. This is the middle, not the end. And the miracle isn't coming. It's already begun. What confronts you now isn't evidence of your weakness. It's the confirmation of your strength. Pressure doesn't show up in lives that carry no weight. You're in this confrontation not to fall apart, but to reveal the structure of your endurance. Resistance appears not to crush you, but to call forth what routine could never awaken. You've been prepared in silence, carved in struggle, molded in moments no one else saw. This is not punishment. It's preparation at its highest level. Each obstacle is not an end. It's a forge. The stretching, the waiting, the grief, it all served as groundwork for what now must rise through you. You're not fighting because you're forgotten. You're being positioned because you're essential. No more echoing the question, why now? Speak from the depths. Just watch. Watch what grows out of this. Watch what stands in the ruins. Watch who emerges from the pressure. The struggle isn't the finale, it's the launch. This is not fragility being exposed, it is fire being born. The version of you who tolerated less, who doubted more, who waited quietly on the edge, that version has expired. What's arriving is bolder, quieter, and far more calibrated. And when this season closes, those who underestimated your capacity won't even recognize your elevation. When the world goes silent and your prayers seem unanswered, it's not dismissal, it's direction. That stillness you feel, the long pauses between moments of clarity, are not absence, they're refinement. Silence clears the interference, so your intuition can rise. It is the arena where divine intelligence imprints on your being, not with words, but with understanding. You want movement, but your spirit requires calibration. What comes next can't be received through noise. The instructions you wait for will arrive as inner nudges, as intuitive clarity, as unexpected peace in the middle of nothingness. This is the part where alignment replaces hustle. Let the pause strip the surface noise. Let it slow you enough to hear the whisper that changes everything. The disruption in your mind, the restlessness at night, the fog that creeps in. It's not a failure of faith. It's an internal renovation. Systems in you are being rerouted. Pathways once dominated by fear and overthinking are now being replaced with vision and stability. This is not a collapse, it's a reset. You are not being silenced, you are being sharpened. The discomfort is your mind's resistance to change, clinging to what's no longer compatible. The rewiring stirs unease, not because you're lost, but because you're leaving behind what never truly fit. As you let go of outdated perceptions, you'll notice your thoughts shift. Old narratives will lose their grip. What once sounded like truth now feels like noise. This isn't disorientation, it's freedom. Stay rooted, speak to yourself with clarity, surround your space with truth, not noise. Because as this rewiring completes, peace replaces confusion, purpose silences doubt, and you walk with a mind sculpted to sustain the next dimension of your path. There's a version of you encoded in your spirit that's been knocking from the inside out, an essence formed in clarity, wrapped in fire, and now refusing to stay hidden. You've sensed glimpses, felt echoes in moments of stillness, dreamed of it in the silence between chaos. And though your surroundings may not yet mirror what you've glimpsed within, that's not contradiction. It's process. Transformation starts in the unseen. Every hard truth you faced, every time you chose integrity when no one was watching, has carved a path forward. And now, the shift begins. The energy inside you becomes so aligned, so anchored, that your external world has no choice but to reflect it. This is emergence, not from vanity, but from depth. You don't imitate confidence. You embody alignment. Your voice steadies. Your presence sharpens. You're not becoming anymore. You've arrived, and you wear it not with arrogance, but with accuracy. There's more to you than blood and biology. You are breath molded by design, a living pulse of divine essence. And that's precisely why adversity keeps trying to knock the wind out of you, because it senses what you carry. But even when systems collapse around you, Your core doesn't. It stretches. It evolves. That's because your origin isn't circumstance. It's intention. When you return to that knowing, old wounds lose authority. You're not fragments of your past. You're brilliance, wrapped in structure, wisdom housed in motion. The more you remember that truth, the less the world's noise can distort your signal. You don't need to become more resilient. You just need to strip away what told you you weren't already whole. Storms don't shatter your essence. They awaken it. Preparation doesn't always look like power. Sometimes it looks like isolation, not punishment, refinement. You've been kept away, not because you're behind, but because you've been evolving in dimensions the world can't measure. And now, that weight you feel pressing on your chest, it's not stress, it's activation. The final stir before breakthrough. Just like evolution never regresses, you're not designed to retreat. You don't go back into waiting. You take flight. The world doesn't need a safer version of you. It needs the full expression. Yes, visibility may sting at first, but hiding costs more. And what you've been forming through pain, silence, and surrender is finally complete enough to be seen. You're not stepping out to impress. You're stepping forward because it's time. Don't fold. Don't flinch. Rise. When your heart is full of God's love, it's a sign to give. By tapping the super thank you button and offering $100 or more, you become a vessel of His grace. Your generosity can change lives, reaching hearts you may never meet. You have a divine purpose, and this act of faith carries His light forward. Give now, and may His blessings surround you always. Your voice isn't noise, it's frequency. It doesn't just fill space, it changes the chemistry of a room. And that's why attempts were made to silence you. Not because you had nothing to say, but because your sound holds weight. Every syllable, every story, every sacred truth etched into your experience. It all becomes medicine when you release it. No more shrinking, no more rewriting yourself for comfort. When your soul speaks, transformation follows, and not everyone will like it. But that was never the point. You weren't created to echo, you were created to resonate. Speak with truth, speak with flame. Because every time you do, not only do you shift others, you set yourself free. Resistance was never the threat. It was training. What drained you wasn't random. It was data. You now walk with knowledge no textbook teaches. You carry strength, born of collapse, and clarity sculpted through trials. And while some expect you to break, what they meet instead is force disguised as presence. You carry impact in your silence and change in your words. You do not rise because you're untouched. You rise because you're preserved. And now, no attack, no delay, no detour can dismantle what's already been sealed over your path. You are not here to survive storms. You're here to redirect them. Sometimes the breaking is mercy. What falls apart isn't failing, it's misalignment making itself obvious. You weren't meant to hold on to structures that collapse under truth. What you're grieving now wasn't real safety. It was the familiar that kept you small. And in this undoing, clarity rises. You see it now. The illusions crack. The truth demands attention. What was removed wasn't taken. It was exposed. And as you let it go, you step into design built from integrity, from alignment, from depth. No more patching holes in sinking ships. You don't rebuild the old. You rise into something untouched by former wounds. The wreckage becomes foundation, and from there, you lead. This strange pause, this detour that feels like delay, is actually a master reset. What seems like limbo is coded precision, crafted to reorient your steps without your permission. You're not drifting. You're being rerouted by force greater than planning. Every closed path was closure. Every no was divine insulation. The magnitude of your calling demands accuracy, not haste. Every step, every connection, every unseen shift is exact. You don't arrive because you rushed. You arrive because you aligned. And when you land, it all synchronizes. You keep scanning the horizon, waiting for breakthrough to arrive from the outside. But what if the eruption begins within? What if the shift isn't coming toward you, but from you? You've been the answer all along. You are the realization of prayers you didn't know you were living. The light doesn't descend. It awakens, right now, in you.